Welcome to my channel. So I'm continuing with the part of corrupted Bible series. Now I began with the area of misplaced word in the book of Leviticus, where the word scapegoat was replaced during translation by a name of a fallen angel called Azazel. Now I'm continuing. Now I'm in part 2. I want us to look at how the Greek influence, the Greek captivity of Israel and their reign, how it was deliberately deleted from the Bible. Because in the Bible, there's no mention at all of Greek reign. Yet, in Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel, it clearly shows that the Greeks had their part. Like you see this dream that Nebuchadnezzar had in Daniel, that God gave him, that the top was Babylon, followed by Persia. So Babylon is mentioned in the Bible, the book of Jeremiah, and even the book of Daniel and others. Persia is mentioned. People like King Cyrus, who allowed the Israel to go back to their country and build their temple, those are all Persians, Medo-Persians. But now, surprisingly, Greece is skipped. From Persia, the Bible goes to Rome, where now Christ comes. And then today we are in the final part of iron and clay. So the part of Greece has been skipped. That part of the Greece captivity, the Greece reign of Israel was skipped. So even the influence of Greece in Israel is not mentioned. So my skeptical mind actually saw that as something odd. We have to discuss about that. So those are the four main kingdoms, ancient kingdom. Babylon was covered in the Bible, Persia is there, Greece is skipped, but Rome is there. Because it's the Romans who crucified Jesus. It's the Romans who destroyed the temple finally. It's the Romans who destroyed Israel at the end. But the part of Greece is missing. So we ask ourselves, what is the Greece influence in Israel? Actually, it is so much. So I want us to cover the part of Greece which was skipped by the translators. So books like Apocrypha, they cover a lot about Greece. What was happening in Israel during the Greek captivity. Which new traditions were introduced by the Greeks. Like we know that crucifixion is a Roman tradition. But now even the Greeks who came before Romans, they brought their own traditions. So we shall look at all those. So Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the head, which is gold, is Babylon, which reigned from 612 to 530 something. Then the breast and arms of silver were Medo-Persian from 539 BC to 331. The thighs of brass were Greece from 331 to 168. So this period is actually deleted from the Bible. You see, a good storyline is supposed to flow. No part in honesty, no part should be deleted. So this part of Greece is deleted in the Bible. The Bible is 66 books. And then from Persia it goes to Rome, legs of iron, from 168 to 476, when the Roman Empire was actually destroyed. So the Roman temple, Christ's crucifixion happened between this period. So there's no mention at all of this time, of Greece time. So today, we are at this time. Iron and clay, divided kingdom, we are here. These are the reigns of the Gentiles. But this part has been removed. Ask yourself why. So Greeks actually conquered Israel after Medo-Persian. Greeks defeated Persians. You see, like in this statue, Persians defeated Babylonians. Cyrus, you have run Babylon. So Persian became the superpowers after Babylon. Greeks also came and defeated Persians. Romans, King Julius Caesar, they came and defeated Greeks. So in the same way, Greeks and their soldiers, Alexander the Great, they came and they conquered Persia. And they even took over Persian territories like Israel and Judea. So Judea And all of the areas that were being controlled by Persia now became under Greek territory.
By the era of classical antiquity, the independent kingdoms of Israel and Judah were in terminal decline. As a result, the history of the Jewish people soon came to be defined by the carousel of foreign empires that took turns conquering and subsequently ruling the ancestral Hebrew homeland. First came the Assyrians, then the Babylonians, then the Persians, who ruled the Jews with a reasonably fair and light hand. Finally, in 332 BC, the Macedonian phalanxes of Alexander would steamroll the Achaemenid Empire out of existence, establishing Classical Greek as the dominant language and culture of the Near East. It is here that the Jewish people became subjects of the Greek world. When Alexander died, his massive Macedonian empire fractured into several monarchies, ruled by his closest comrades and later their descendants. These so-called Diadochi kingdoms were constantly at war with one another, and the region of Judea, being situated in the borderland between the Ptolemies of Egypt and Seleucids of Syria, became a battleground where the two Macedonian dynasties jockeyed for power and influence. Despite this, life remained fairly peaceful for the Hebrews. The Hellenistic kings generally used the same light touch the Persians had, interfering very little in the region's culture, religion, and internal politics. The Jewish people were ruled semi-autonomously by a high priest of the Judaic faith, who handled matters both religious and secular from the Great Temple of Jerusalem. In 198 BC, Antiochus III had finally expelled the Ptolemies out of Judea, putting the region firmly under the suzerainty of the Seleucid Empire. He lowered taxes and affirmed the Jewish people's freedom to live by their own faith and laws, and for now, Judea was content. Throughout world history, we often see subject peoples of a multi-ethnic empire willingly adopt the language and customs of said empire's rulers in an attempt to improve social mobility, so many Jewish peoples began to practice the Greek culture of their suzerains. This phenomenon, known as Hellenization, was perpetuated mainly by the upper strata of Jewish society, namely the wealthy priests, merchants, and aristocrats in urban Jerusalem. The Hellenization process was expedited in 175 BC, when the culturally traditionalist high priest, Onias III, was deposed by his Philhellene brother, Joshua, better known by his Greek name, Jason. Jason would go on to wield his power as high priest to begin transforming Jerusalem into a classically Greek city by building a gymnasium and an ephebium, essentially community centers for Greek education and learning. He also sent Jewish athletes to compete in a mimicry of the Olympic Games hosted by the king in Tyre. There he offered a sacrificial tribute to the Greek demigod Hercules, to whom the games were dedicated. Perhaps his most radical policy was to allow non-Jews in Jerusalem to set idols of their gods within the Holy Temple itself. The fact that the high priest was openly tolerating and even promoting the polytheistic gods was deeply disturbing to many Jews who clung to their monotheist faith. This sentiment was especially strong in the poorer rural communities of Judea, who had clung far closer to Orthodox Judaism.
Judah, which was now called Judea, lay between the two of these Greek successor kingdoms, the Seleucids in Asia Minor. So the Seleucids controlled Asia, which is even included Judea, and then Ptolemies controlled Egypt. So Judea remained as a buffer state between the two, between Asia Minor kingdom and Egypt. So Israel was under Seleucid. So Judea was controlled by the Greeks at this time. And it was like a pound between the two Greek minor kingdoms. Until Maccabees, we shall look at Maccabees later. Maccabees came and fought those people. So under the Persians, religious worship had remained a matter of local custom, so they were allowed free to worship their god, and they were protected. But when the Greeks came, the form of Hellenization, this is Greek culture, in Syrian-ruled areas, imposed a new kind of local administration. Greek colonization mixed with philosophical ideals of universal world order, called for a more thorough transformation of local customs. So Greek cities had their own laws and customs, and these were brought to Judea. This included laws and constitution, rituals, and even religious calendar. And a demos, or a roll call of citizens, was established. A baule, or a bule, which is a city council of aristocratic leaders, was appointed. And a gymnasium, like you have heard before, was constructed for education of elite boys. And then universal Greek education was introduced to ensure inculcation of Greek values, and even native texts became increasingly modeled on the Greek literature. So Hellenization began to become adopted, especially by the rich Israelites. So even their way of life changed. They began to go to the gym, to take part in sports, and the cities willingly embraced such reconstitution, like Samaria. They embraced it so much. And the Greek culture soon was embraced by most Jews. So we find that even things like circumcision, Greeks did not practice circumcision. So in the same way, they began to encourage the Israelites to stop circumcising. And even things like priesthood became to be something that could be bought by the highest bidder. So there was a conflict between traditionalists, those who wanted to maintain the old Mosaic law, and then those who are progressive, wanted to mix with the Greek ideals. So there was a kind of a conflict. So because of this, later we shall see how Maccabees, they began to revolt. Maccabees were Israelites. They began to revolt against the Greek influence. So I think in the next time I shall talk about Maccabees. Maccabees were very strong Jewish people, family, who began to revolt and organize the Israelites to revolt against this Greek influence and Greek culture. So in the next series we shall look at Maccabees, and then later we shall look at one of the most notorious Greek kings called Antiochus Epiphanes, who even sacrificed a pig in the Jewish temple. We shall look at all that. So the point is that the Greek influence, when they were reigning in Israel, it was so much, so prevalent. Even some of the Roman things, Roman culture, Roman came later. Some of the Roman things came from Greek. So the Greek influence was very big. Very big. So that's why I'm wondering why the Greek part in the Bible is deleted. Now you should know that even today, most of the secret societies, they are modeled under Greek. So there's a very big question mark why the Greek captivity, the Greek reign, and the Greek influence in Israel was deleted from the Bible. Yet others like Roman, Persians are clearly recorded. So we shall go next time in this series, and now we shall look at the Maccabees, how they revolted against this. So keep it locked, and let me see your comments, and we shall go on next time. Thank you.